don't they? I mean, if that's what you're saying, they're running away from those wonderful opportunities. Why don't they take up the opportunity? In fact, why don't you take up the opportunity? Why would you come and make your fortune here in South Africa when, as you've described it, you could be making a fortune in Zimbabwe? Why are you here?
Because I'm part of the problem in Zimbabwe. My attitude of thinking that I had to come and take up the opportunity that was offered to me here,
so why don't you go
instead
home?
of minding
May I ask you that? Why are you not
I am going home. But right now, I've also got family in South Africa. I've got South African children, and those South African children don't just allow me to just stand up and leave, but I do have projects that I'm taking part in Zimbabwe because I've learned that those resources are the most important thing.
If you have such faith in your country, in Zimbabwe, I would say and I would think you would get up and you would take your family and you would go and fix up the future of Zimbabwe. If you're saying there's land, if you're saying there's minerals, if you're saying there is so much wealth and opportunities for you there, you're living a contradiction.
No, I'm not living a contradiction.
You certainly are. By sitting here, you're living a contradiction.
I would ask you that why...
Because people are suffering in Zimbabwe,
so why are people
but you're
not,
languishing
why
here.
are people not going to the Netherlands? Why are Germans not going back to Germany? Is it because their countries are bad? Is it because they're running away from problems in the UK or in the States? Why aren't Europeans going? What are you doing here?
I live here. This is my home. I'm not running away from it.
Why are you living here instead of Europe? Why did your great-grandparents come here instead of Europe?
We're not talking about grandparents. We're talking about me.
No,
we're talking about you.
You've made it sound like a Zimbabwean needs to go back to Zimbabwe to show that Zimbabwe is working. So why are Europeans not going back to Europe? Why are Asians not going back to Asia? Why are they staying in South Africa?
The context of the conversation is that you're saying that Zimbabwe is a beautiful country with great opportunities and people have run away from there to become waiters. The context is you are living here in South Africa when you could be going back and making that country work. That's the context.
You also forgot that I was asked to come here. Somebody thought my skills were important here.
I've been asked to go to other countries, but I believe in this country.
But why don't you believe in Europe?
No, I believe in South Africa.
Why don't you believe in Europe?
I believe in my country.
Why don't you believe in Europe?
Hello, Internet. Welcome back to the channel. And as usual, for those that are coming across the channel for the first time, please subscribe to the channel to become part of our team. So in today's video, as you have seen in the beginning, there's that heated argument between that Zimbabwean gentleman and that lady, that white lady, apparently from South Africa, the South African lady. And it's funny. I find it rather, I mean, the entitlement, I have said this before, that is with white people is amusing. In that case, between that lady and now I'm not a racist, but between that lady and the gentleman, who looks like they're African? And we will ask these questions because we have been asked these questions before. We have Africans that have lived in Europe for decades, if not centuries. We have Afro-Europeans that have been born, that have had 3 generations, if not more, in Europe, but still to date, they are categorized. They are rather seen as, Africans. That they came and they are still they face racial discrimination. Imagine, and sometimes these people that have never even set foot on African continent. They were born in Europe. Their parents were born in Europe, but today they still undergo racial discrimination. They are marginalized. They are black people. But this lady is in South Africa. She calls herself South African. She feels way more African because her parents, or I don't know, grandparents, came from wherever they came from in Europe, grabbed land from Africans, forcefully took land and property of the people of South Africa, and now they live there. But she has she feels like she can lecture us on what it is to be an African. She is asking that man why he can't leave South Africa and go back to Zimbabwe. Yes, Zimbabwe has land. That's the truth. I'm not Zimbabwean. I'm Kenyan. But Zimbabwe has land, a lot of it. Zimbabwe has a lot of minerals, a lot of that. like that man has said. But just because it has all those doesn't mean that that black gentleman is not entitled to move to South Africa, move to here in Kenya, move to whatever country, move to West Africa, move to, Central Africa and do business. He is African. He belongs to this continent. This is his home, regardless of whatever they state. I have always been of the Pan-African idea that we need to make Africa and our national borders in Africa as porous as possible. In fact, if possible, we just need to entirely do away with them. And if we need, we can redraw them, in our own terms. Because the borders that we have today, and I have always said this before, and I will continue to say it, we did not draw Africans did not draw the borders. They did not partake. There was no consent by Africans to draw those borders, and it wasn't meant to benefit any single African. That was a way of Europeans to split and divide their spoils and know their own territories from which they were going to exploit from without fighting amongst themselves. And then we kind of like inherited, and they still use those borders to control us, control Africa. So this lady thinks she's South Africa, way more African than the Zimbabwean. I have always been baffled with the entitlement that is with white people. In America today, Africans that moved there 100 years ago still are asked to move to Africa, or still are viewed as, black people, not American enough, by white people who do not even belong originally to America. The entitlement. Jane Elliott, that American scholar, said white people invented and created racism, and that is 100% true. And there's nothing like reverse racism. There is nothing like counter racism. It's just a natural reaction to what is being done to us. Look at that. I love how that gentleman handled the conversation. Why is she in South Africa? She's supposed to go to wherever in Europe, if that is what it feels like. She, and through her parents or grandparents, also came to Africa, to South Africa. And if she feels like people from Zimbabwe are coming to take opportunities for South Africans, then people that came, there's so many Europeans that are full of themselves, that are all over in the Southern Africa, have come there by whatever means, through whoever that brought them there, have come to take opportunities for South Africans. Why, it is these borders that Europeans drew. It is the control of the Europeans that instigates the hate between people of different African countries, because it's never been there. No. From history has it that myself and my community, as we are living in Kenya today and in Tanzania, my ethnic community, we never were originally Kenyans before these border things. We moved along, the River Nile. So we came from somewhere, the current Sudan, and maybe before then we came from upper into the northern African continent, from Egypt maybe, and we came down with our animals, moving from place to place, until these people came and drew borders. And so today we don't move anymore. We can't move, because I can't move without a passport. Because they told us. So I don't know why Africans are the ones who have fought for one another. And it's nothing like South African and Kenyan and Zimbabwean and West Africans. And no, Africans have always been there for one another.
Africanism is not a theory. It's the lived solidarity that made the Ethiopians give Nelson Mandela a passport, that made Senegalese civil servants contribute $1 each every month for the liberation of South Africa, that made Zambia take care of us as Zimbabweans and South Africans as we fought for our liberation, that made Uganda take care of the comrades that now run this country. If Pan-Africanism has no active solidarity action, no active affirmative action, the words are meaningless, because even the devil can quote scripture.
Africans have been there for one another. And now, even when, we should be there for one another through, thin and thick. Africans should be able to move from, this kind of hatred between people of this country and it's not valid. Self being Kenyan, I do not usually feel like I don't like this country for whatever reason, and I want to disappear and become a Ugandan. No, but I want to go to Uganda. It's okay. I want to go to Tanzania. I want to go to, I just want to go everywhere. But I will always come back home. But the fact that we are controlled by those borders, then we have that kind of a competitive. But if we are at liberty to just move from one place to another and explore and get ideas and do business, look at people that are in Kenya today. In Kenya today, we have a lot of refugees and from across the border, the Somali border. We have those that have come from as far as the Congo and Burundi. But those people, and there's so many of them in Nairobi currently. Look, those people do not even vote. They do not own the means of production. They do not control the banks. In fact, they're doing a lot more than. So instead of us African being made to think that those people from the Congo are coming to steal our businesses, no. Most of them, they are doing things that I personally would not do. So they're rendering rather they're offering us services that are very, very useful. They're coming to add into our manpower. We should stop viewing each other as someone is coming to steal from me. No, most of them sell from, for example, these are coming from Burundi and Congo. Most of them sell coffee by the roadside. They hawk coffee, and they sell clothes and shoes, but people in Kenya have always been wearing shoes. Why haven't Kenyans always thought of doing all that business? And all those people just came to offer another kind of service or they came with a new idea, or because Kenyans didn't think that was what they have come to show us that it's possible. You can do it. You can sell your shoes by the roadside. You can hawk your coffee around using those huge flasks that they do here in Kenya. They're not taking our opportunities. They just came here and they invented, they're innovative, and they're showing us. Because I can also go down there today and start selling coffee if I want. And maybe it's because I have seen they have come to show us different ways of making the so-called, how do we call this? Mandazi, yeah. They have come with their ways, their new ways. We should learn from them, and I can go down there and learn from them and sell. Like, we're not stealing from one another. We are made to believe that these border things are not for any good of Africans. No, not at all. So I don't understand why Europeans will always try to lecture. We're not African. Museveni once said that We do not have we do not have the tendency of lecturing people on what they should do. People can do whatever they want to do, their way. People don't have to do things our way. We don't have to do things their way. You can do it your way, I do it my way. And I see your way. If it is okay, I borrow. If you see my way of doing things is okay, you can borrow. And we are complementary. The relationship should be complementary, not as competitive as we try to make it look like one must override the other.
For us, we are polite people. We don't lecture people. It is the Europeans who have got the bad habit of lecturing.
Tell me, when the Europeans came here and those that are still living here today, even those that are living in Kenya, who gave them the citizenship to be here? Now, well, today people can move to another country and acquire citizenship through some documentation stuff. But before these things, when they came here as imperialists and colonialists, they came to grab. There was no documentation. We might have accepted them in a way of, because African lived with people harmoniously, but they came forcefully and stayed here. They forced their way into South Africa. She should be reminded that she should pack, and if possible, supposed to refund everything she has through the generations back to Africans and go back to Europe. I find it really funny, the sense of entitlement with white people. But for Africans, I'll still continue to say we must stand and see, from a different perspective. It's time for us to open our eyes and, say no to some of these things. See beyond what what we have been taught, Yeah. We've come to the end of this video for now. Please give this video a thumbs up, share this video, but most importantly, subscribe to this channel for more interesting and amazing content. Until next time, peace.